In the last few weeks, as a result of Operation Pearl and Operation Shelter, New South Wales Police have put major resources into catching, arresting and then prosecuting people who are responsible for these hate crimes in New South Wales. And I'll run through a few of them. Late last year, there was an alleged attack on the Curly Lewis Brewing. 4 individuals have been charged with those offences. They're before the courts. All of them have been refused bail. The Continental Kitchen was torched in an act of vandalism. 2 individuals were charged with those offences. They're before the courts and refused bail. There was an attack on Mylar Street late last year in Woollahra. 3 individuals were arrested. They are before the courts and have been refused bail. And just yesterday, police made a breakthrough in relation to an investigation again in Woollahra late last year. Now, we've got a long way to go. No one in New South Wales Police, the federal government, the New South Wales government is trying to downplay the seriousness of these attacks. It needs a full and comprehensive police response. It needs proper coordination between the states and the Commonwealth, between our police agencies and intelligence agencies at the federal level. But I want to make it clear that's exactly what is happening right now. Secondly, as Deputy Commissioner Thurtell will speak about enlarging the police response in relation to these attacks and the investigation that will take place in New South Wales. More detectives, more resources, more people chasing down these violent criminals who are determined to launch race-based anti-Semitic attacks in this beautiful city. I also want to make it clear that both the Prime Minister and myself spoke to Rabbi Goldstein, who's from Maroubra Synagogue. Obviously, he's heartbroken as a result of this attack, but he knows that the community in Maroubra and the eastern suburbs, whether they're of the Jewish faith or not, are with him and stand united against this appalling attack. We've also spoken to the people that operate only about children, who have a commitment to educating the next generation, who are kind-hearted, decent people and did not deserve this attack, this vicious attack on their premises. They'll rebuild as soon as possible. They're obviously devastated as a result of this, but they're not going to let it get them down either. I'm going to pass over to the Prime Minister.
Well, thanks very much, Premier. Childcare centres are places of joy and harmony. They're places where we send our youngest Australians to engage with each other, to learn, and so that people can participate in the workforce. They should be places that are at the centre of local communities and places that are enjoyed by the young ones who are there and also by their teachers. What we saw overnight, in the middle of the night, with this attack is the latest in a series of anti-Semitic hate crimes. And it is a crime, a vicious crime, to think through how you could think that something like this would advance any alleged cause that people might have. The only objective which will be achieved by this crime is the fulfilment of these people being caught, charged and facing the full force of the law. This morning, as Chris has said, I spoke with Rabbi Goldstein. He said to me words that will stick with me. He said, peace, light and love. That's what Australia is about. And indeed, that is what people of faith are about as well, spreading that harmony. At that childcare centre, where Matt Thistlethwaite, the local federal member, was there this morning, there's a mural that was done by local community members of the Jewish, Catholic, other faiths were brought together in order to paint a mural at that childcare centre. The sort of harmony that enriches Australia. This is a place for children and families, and it should never have been denigrated by this despicable and horrifying crime. I stand with the Premier and with our police agencies. I've spoken this morning with the anti-Semitism envoy Gillian Siegel. I've also spoken with the AFP Commissioner Reece Kershaw about this crime. This is something that people in this great multicultural city of Sydney should never wake up to. And this news will lead to action, as the Premier has said. Already people have been rounded up and caught and are being prosecuted, denied bail, and indeed federally as well, under Operation Avalite, which is responsible for coordinating the action between the Commonwealth and the state police jurisdictions. The first arrest occurred last Thursday. That's a good thing. I'll hand now to Acting Commissioner Peter Thurtell.
Thanks very much, Prime Minister. As has been said, this morning at 12:56 a.m, a member of the public called 000 in relation to a fire at the All About Children Childcare Centre in Story Street, Maroubra. Our Fire and Rescue New South Wales and New South Wales Police Force were on the scene very quickly. The fire was extinguished, and we are now in the process of forensically examining the premises, including any CCTV in the area. As has already been mentioned, this matter will be investigated by Strike Force Pearl, which has been operating for quite some time, and that Strike Force will have its resources increased as of today. We already have significant resources, but incidents like this highlight the fact that we need to keep putting the resources in to ensure that these offenders are identified and arrested and put before the court. The abhorrent nature of these attacks has already been mentioned, but let me emphasise that these people aren't just somebody who has a bent against a certain race or religion. These are criminals who are out to destroy our society, and we, as the New South Wales Police Force, will do whatever we have to do to ensure that these people are arrested. I've already mentioned that Strike Force Pearl will have its resources increased, as will Operation Shelter, which is the overarching operation that the New South Wales Police Force has been conducting since October 2023. We've arrested over 180 people under Strike Force Shelter, Operation Shelter, 40 of those people are for specific anti-Semitic offences. 8 of those people have been arrested by Strike Force Pearl in relation to the arson attacks. We will continue to investigate this. We will continue to ensure that the resources that are required are put to it. And as was demonstrated by Strike Force Seasoned, you might remember during COVID, when we had the COVID riots, we formed Strike Force Seasoned, and that went for nearly 6 months, arresting people involved in the riots. We did the same, as already been mentioned by the Premier recently, with Strike Force in relation to the Wakeley riots. And that is still going, but the latest of those offenders were arrested approximately 5 or 6 months after the riots. So we will continue with this investigation. We won't stop investigating any of these matters until we have the offenders before the court.
Thanks, Peter, and we're all happy to take questions.
Why is the Police Commissioner and the Police Minister both on leave when Sydney's one of the worst anti-Semitic crises of its history?
Oh, look, I want to make it clear that the full resources of the New South Wales Government and the New South Wales Police Force are on hand with full investigative abilities to conduct these important inquiries. And that can happen during a holiday period or in the middle of July or late in the year. The public needs to have confidence, and they should have confidence, that the resources are going in to fight this crime, and that takes place with Acting Commissioner Thurtell, as well as the New South Wales Government doing its bit to keep the public safe. Now, I want to make it clear. That we are not trying to push any of these offences under the carpet or downplay their significance or suggest to the public that they're not serious. They are. The rise in anti-Semitic attacks in New South Wales is a major concern for the state, the primary concern for New South Wales. And I want to make sure that the public are aware that the full resources will be deployed. No, I think fair-minded people would appreciate, or take my word for it, that we are taking this seriously and we are putting every resource that we possibly can. We've got the Prime Minister here today pledging the full support of the AFP, intelligence agencies and security agencies to combat this appalling act of racist violence.
Premier, for for all this strong rhetoric against these vicious attacks, as you call them, have you lost control of this crisis that's happening in Sydney?
Look, I don't believe so, and it's important today that we're able to detail in specifics where arrests have taken place in New South Wales. And the individuals that have been charged by New South Wales Police face very serious prison time if they're convicted in the courts. They will be charged by New South Wales Police. They will be met by a full operational response. And whether it's the Continental Kitchen that was burned down with over $1 million worth of damage in a violent arson attack, or acts of graffiti, or acts of anti-Semitism in the street, there's been nearly 180 individuals that have been arrested since October the 7th, 2023. So I want to make it clear to the public, and in particular anyone who's considering trying to rip apart our city or act in a violent or racist way, the New South Wales Police will meet you, they will arrest you for your behaviour, and you will face prison time as a result of these activities. And as you've just heard from Deputy Commissioner Thurtell, extra resources are being put in today. That's in relation to the police's response. It wouldn't be appropriate for me, and I can't promise the end of this kind of violence. We are seeing a wave of anti-Semitic attacks in our community. It's deeply distressing. As I said earlier, it breaks your heart that we have animals in our city that are prepared to burn down a childcare centre to make this point. But what I can promise is that the resources of the New South Wales Police and the government and the Commonwealth Government are directed at this today and tomorrow, and as long as it takes to catch the people who are responsible for it.
But Premier, the reality is the rate of these attacks is increasing, not decreasing, since you started this one sort of quite intense rhetoric. So, I mean, are you concerned that this is really out of control and you don't have a lid on it? Like, I mean, there's no sign that police have got a grip on this.
Yeah, well, I would reject that. At the beginning of this media conference, I detailed in specifics the number of people who've been arrested for these very serious attacks. And I want to push back on the idea that no one's been arrested for vicious attacks throughout Sydney. Now, we were very distressed at the end of last year to see a number of attacks on what were seen to be Jewish residencies or streets or communities. Police have executed, as a result of good police work, these arrests, and the individuals that have been charged face serious jail time, and that will continue. The second point I'd make about this is you'll remember the Wakely riots of late last year. Now, they were serious. We were very concerned about it. The police put a task force in place, and arrests continued for the next 4 to 6 months. No one dropped the ball in relation to that inquiry. So if you commit these offences, you can expect a knock on the door either today, tomorrow, or a month from now, and you'll be arrested as a result of these activities.
Given that these incidents are still occurring, I mean, you were having the same press conference on Friday, are you going to consider declaring them acts of terror or increase how they're policed in terms of those laws? I mean,
Yeah, look, the terrorism designation, I think it's important that we detail what that means from the police's perspective and the government's perspective. Once police designated something a terrorist offence, it accesses more laws that they need to conduct an investigation. And you remember we made that designation, the government and the police made that designation after that terrible attack in Wakely in a church in Western Sydney. And the reason they did that is that they needed the extra resources and powers that came with the terrorism designation. What I want to make clear is that police will not hesitate to make that designation if they believe it's appropriate to conduct the investigation. But right now we've got strong laws in New South Wales, we've got a major police presence, we are putting more resources in, and I want to make it clear on the basis or the evidence of police arrests because of activities taken last year, if you commit these offences, police will arrest you.
On hate speech laws, you said you flagged demonstrative vilification laws and bring it into a criminal case as opposed to a civil one. How many instances have you heard of or are aware of that has deterred someone from bringing these cases to the courts because it's a civil matter?
Well, I mean, self-evidently, I've looked at the laws in New South Wales and I've seen private individuals that have had to effectively launch a private prosecution in order to determine that someone in the community has vilified their race or religion. Now, Western Australia and soon in Victoria, they're going to change the laws in relation to that. And I don't think it's the responsibility of an individual to have to stand up and say, well, I believe that my race has been vilified by a social media post or a sermon or something somebody says on a street corner or in a public forum, because that exposes that individual to potentially an attack It exposes them to potential harassment as a result of taking that prosecution. And the end result is that's the state's responsibility, the DPP and New South Wales Police. Now, I don't take that decision lightly. I acknowledge that we asked for a recommendation from the state's Law Reform Commission. But at the end of the day, I don't believe anti-Semitic attacks begin and end with a firebombing or a graffiti attack. I think it begins with language. I think it begins with hateful, racist language that perversely inspires an individual to commit a violent act. And if I can stop it at its source with changes to the law, that's exactly what we'll do.
So will you be reforming 93Z, or will it be with crimes after sentencing?
Yeah, look, potentially both. This is in some measures a question of aggravating factors, I should say, at sentencing, but also changes to 93Z. But look, I mean, at the moment we're talking about the police operation. I want to make it clear we're pursuing legislation as well, but I think it's reasonable for the government to produce the legislation, take it to Cabinet and then release it to the public, and I'll talk more about it when it's ready to go.
Premier, Alex Ripchin warned on Friday that this crisis is going to end in murder. How concerned are you with that prospect?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to downplay this, and I don't think the Prime Minister is either, and New South Wales Police are not either. We're holding this media conference today. We inspected the scene of the crime this morning. We're putting more resources into the police operation specifically because we are concerned. Now, I would love to be in a position to say that we can stop this kind of hatred in our streets, but I'm not in that position at the moment. What I can promise is a full and comprehensive response from New South Wales Police and the government. These operations will continue, and if I need to strengthen the law in New South Wales, that's exactly what I'll do.
For the Deputy Commissioner, the Premier outlined a few of the arrests that have been made on previous incidents. Can you sort of talk about what you've learned about the alleged motivations of these accused? And I suppose, is that copycat effect coming into what you're hearing from these accused?
Yeah, that's correct. Yesterday there was a 34-year-old female was arrested in relation to the December 11 attack at Magny Street. We are investigating whether other people were involved in that, of course, and that's the responsibility of Strikeforce Pearl. But we're also investigating all the other matters to see whether they're linked. And again, Strikeforce Pearl has that charter. So there's a lot of work to do on all of these matters, both individually and collectively. And Strikeforce Pearl is getting to the bottom of it. As I said to you before, the female, we're investigating whether there's other people involved with her, and we won't stop. And we've obviously got good leads that we're going through.
What are you alleging her role was? Was she a main player?
Well, that matters before the court today, but we're alleging that she was part of a criminal group that was involved in that. So yes, we do believe that she was a significant player in that incident.
Are you planning to release CCTV from the daycare to help track down those people?
As I said before, the forensic analysis of that crime scene is underway, and as soon as we have more information for the public, then obviously we'll be releasing what we can. Obviously, we won't release information that may compromise a probable investigation or potential arrests, but where we can and where we need assistance from the public, which obviously we always need, which is a timely reminder to ask the public, please come forward. People know who it is that's coordinating this, if it's coordinated. People know who's involved in this. And we ask, please, ring the New South Wales Police Force and give us that information because it is crucial to our investigations.
Is there anything more that can be done from the Commonwealth to help sort of stop these attacks from going ahead? I know it's done previously, but from a legislation point, is there anything that can be done?
Well, one of the things that the Commonwealth can do, and I spoke with Commissioner Kershaw this morning, is to ensure, firstly, that best practice occurs, and certainly the Operation Aberlight is about bringing together the Australian Federal Police, our intelligence agencies, including ASIO and other agencies as well, exchanging information and intelligence, and seeing if there are any links as well between incidents that occur across state jurisdictions. It is state police forces that have primary responsibility for law and order. I have every confidence, as does Commissioner Kershaw, in the work they're undertaking. and the information given here this morning by the Premier about the fact that people have been found, charged, and currently in the clink because bail has been delayed is a good thing.
Are you comfortable with police investigations up to this?
I have faith in our police forces, whether they be. As a resident of New South Wales, I've always had confidence in the New South Wales Police Force, and I also have full confidence in the AFP.
Prime Minister, there have been 2 anti-Semitic attacks in 4 days. Will you now convene a national cabinet to tackle this crisis?
We'll have a discussion this afternoon. We met last week. The Premier of Victoria and the Acting Premier of New South Wales. Obviously, like in other places at this time of the year, people have been on leave. I know that the Premier came back here in New South Wales, so we'll have that discussion this afternoon.